idea.
Cool.
Like literally, like in the first period, I passed out to like the ballot, dude.
That's not good. Don't forget the rest of your orange. Do you want to greet everyone?
Which do you think is best?
Sure. You're teaching today.
Cool. Then yes, I'd love to do that.
He picked me up and shoot
Did you
me.
do so well? Staring. Yeah, I got that.
I'm eligible.
So you know what?
Okay, I'm eligible. I missed our last game this morning. Friday, dude. I don't care. I don't care. Friday is Friday.
Louis, yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you get going on your team now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm on it.
Maybe yet.
Why did I tell you that? Yeah, I did.
Alright.
It smells good.
Honestly, it smells good. You like smell like ass. It smells like orange.
Orange is on my
That's mine.
Oh, that's fucking
Did you find your phone, Daniel? Daniel, did you find your phone?
Talk to me now.
Thank you, Jason, for getting started on your do now.
I've been on it.
Well, someone read. It smells so
Oh, I
good.
don't like it. That's all?
Physically all it is.
You're black. And he's black.
What's up, baby girl?
Hey, how was it?
Yeah, she's been alone because you were here.
Wait, where'd you go?
Students, I hear a little bit too much noise from in here. You could get started on the do now. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's teaching now, bro. She does today.
Yeah, she's too late.
Oh yeah, you missed yesterday now. I missed it.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah, Miss Waller left for good. You're teaching us forever?
No, I'm just teaching you.
Oh my
today.
God! I told you, bro. I was like, I'm getting you. Who turned his in?
Wait, did he need
Yeah, that's our last thing.
Is he like taller than us?
Yeah.
Has glasses.
Yeah.
Everyone's taller than me.
Who turned his in?
Yeah, why?
She'll probably tell you something.
Can you just tell Papa?
Oh, wait.
Wait, that's easy. Don't you learn? Yeah. Do you know if he has? Yeah, he has our class. The car. Your sister. She, I mean,
Yeah, never mind.
Hey guys, we're doing our vocab. Let's go. Hi, Miss Haley.
Oh, it's good. I'm missing the drop to everybody.
I mean, I do too, but I live right next door.
Oh, yeah, the person's here for
Let's get going on vocab. We're turning the packet in. You have 5 minutes.
I don't know how to get you. I can take it.
Can I have the other two?
I was trying to ask
from
you.
Monday?
I work.
Well, you have it in here. You can take it.
Okay. Are you sure? That's it? I got
No, don't, no. No, what?
Just making sure that I'm sure. Thank you for correcting.
Hold on, I need to write this.
Students, this is a silent activity. You've done it all semester long. Until today's quiz, and then you can follow.
If you are missing any words from this month, the packet is on the back wall.
You done?
Okay, take another minute and a half to finish up your do now. Do you have extra?
Do you mean our?
You have the whole thing done? Thank you very much.
Here, miss.
Take another 30 seconds, and if all of your vocab is filled in, you can turn it in. Oh. You need the one from the bowl for... I'll give you.
Oh.
It's right here. Do you want to sit next to... Just sit right here. Okay, most of the class is done. For those of you who are still working, actually, can everyone just get their eyes up on me real quick? I'm just gonna wait until everyone's eyes are on me. Almost there. you all. Cool. So as you know, I'm going to be teaching you today, and I'm very excited about that. If you are still working on your vocab, you can do that. I'm going to go over the do, not the do now, the objective.
Ooh, kind of pull it forward a little bit.
Watch this, guys. I can do it. So our objective today, students will be able to annotate a text as a class, summarize the gist of each paragraph, and write the author's overall claim. This is the standard if you want to go. Does everyone know what annotate means? Thumbs up. Relatively. Okay, so annotate is when you mark up a text with notes. We've been doing this all semester. Yes? Yes. Summarize. Do you guys know what that means? Do you know what a gist is? Does anyone have a clue? Yeah? I saw your hand first, Haley. You want to go for it?
Me?
No? Jorge, do you have something in mind? Shorter version of the summary. What else?
10-word sentence about the list.
Lovely, and that's actually really close. So the combination of those two, a gist, is the main or essential point or topic of a body of text, such as a paragraph, written in your own words that equals to 15 words or less. Okay, so words or less. Cool. So this is what we're going to do today. You all have, well, we can do that up for a little bit. You all have an article in front of you. And I'm going to read it out loud to you. But to make this more of a class activity, I am going to leave random words out at different times. So I'll be reading a sentence and I'll say, how many non-Indians remember, and then I'll leave that blank. Because you guys are reading along with me. Every time I pause, you guys will be able to say the next word that I have not said. Which in this case is? Who said it?
I did.
Yes. So this is going to ensure that everyone's paying a lot of attention because this is a little bit more of an advanced article. So let's try it. Let's do a practice run. This means that you all have to be looking at your text. How many non-Indians remember Alcatraz? The BIA seizure. The okay, some of you got it, but you guys are a strong class and I think you can do a little bit better, okay? Let's try it again. The Mayflower 2, the second or
Even.
the first Wounded Knee.
Incidents.
Okay, I feel pretty weak. We're gonna go through it, and if you're staying this week, I'm gonna pause us, and we're gonna have to maybe go back and reread some stuff, which is not as fun, but sometimes necessary. Is everyone ready? Lovely. How many non-Indians remember Alcatraz? The BIA seizure, the Mayflower 2, the
Second.
or even the first Wounded Knee incidents? How
Many.
of you know why it is that Leonard Peltier is in prison? Ever
Here.
of Russell Means, Ward Churchill, Vine Delaria Jr., Winona LaDuke, or Dennis Banks? Anyone? The American Indian Movement? Ever hear the phrase
Red.
power or Uncle Tomahawk? I won't hold it against you if you haven't heard of or are aware of all or some on that list, because to be truthful, many people are unaware of our situation. Some people are even ignorant enough to that because some nations have done well for themselves via the new, aka the casinos and oil rapids, that we all have money oozing out of every pore in our
Bodies.
The truth is, most reservations in Indian communities are as or below the level of the third world global southern countries. Looking at it from my own experience, my nation's reservation is gripped by abject poverty and utter, ooh, that one was a hard one, good job, desperation, utter desperation and isolation. Alcohol and drug use are killing more of us than Custer and Sherman could ever have hoped to with guns and bombs, and there is little hope for a future when faced with the full force of the white supremacist, Christian, patriarchal, capital imperialist machine that is the
United States
federal government. Compounding this problem is the fact that the typical U.S. citizen resident knows almost nothing about the situation currently being faced by most Indians on reservations. And if they think they know anything about the Indians in general, it is what they have gotten by being exposed, thank you, to the romanticization or characterization of Indians as they have seen in films and primitive pagan oddities, or in the print media as the
stereotypes.
of oil and or casino-rich Indians. With that in mind, it is my intention here is to chronicle very briefly the suffering of just one such nation with the goal of dispelling these
Myths.
myths. I will be looking at the Oglala,
Lakota.
Lakota. Oglala Lakota of the Pine Ridge Reservation in South
Dakota.
I choose them over equally or more impoverished peoples because they are well known and because the stats are more easy to come by. With that said, however, it should be noted that if one were to change the names and locales, this article could just as easily be used to describe countless other nations from
Alaska.
to
Mexico.
including, but by now no means limited to, the Diné Navajo, Ute Mountain Ute, Tohono O'odham, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing right, Papago, Pima, Yaqui, Cherokee, Choctaw, and Creek of Oklahoma, Apache, or other Lakota such as the Brule. And my own people, the Menominee, which I also may not be pronouncing right. This list is tragic and far from the school drop. So this is a list that was in the article, and I shortened it. I picked out a couple statistics, but this is by no means all of them. This list was about 2 pages long of statistics of how Native Americans are not treated well by the government or by other institutions. So, the school dropout rate is a staggering 70%. In a recent case study, the Tribal Council estimated a need for at least 4,000 new homes in order to combat the homeless situation. There is an estimated average of 17 people living in each family home, a home which may only have 2 or 3 rooms. Some larger homes built for 6 to 8 people have up to 30 people living in them. Over 33% of the reservation homes lacks basic water and sewage systems as well as electricity. There are no public libraries except one at Oglala Lakota College. Alcoholism affects 8 out of 10 families on the
Reservation.
Many wells and much of the water and land on the reservation is contaminated with pesticides and other poisons from farming, mining, open dumps, and commercial and governmental operations outside the reservation. A further source of contamination is buried ordnance. I'm sorry? Oh, you thought I was pausing. Thank you. Buried ordnance and hazardous materials from closed U.S. military bombing ranges on the reservation. While I write this, I do not mean to have this as a piece to because there is a ray of hope on both the Lakota reservations and those throughout the rest of the United States and Canada. Since the 1960s, many Indians have become conscious of the nature of their oppression and have organized to defeat it. The greatest and most famous manifestation of this was the American Indian Movement, which was part of the wider Red Power movement. However, I take it a step further, and also in another direction than most AIM leadership and membership by applying a Marxist interpretation to the
Situation.
It is my position that by introducing the largely European concept of class division on the reserves and reservations, the bourgeoisie state has created their own grave diggers. Many true revolutionaries, Indian and non-Indian, have come to realize that the enemy of the North American indigenous is not the white man, but
Capitalism.
capitalism and the state. Marxists are working people must unite with the other oppressed and excluded of the world to fight and topple the bosses of their own rotten system. Okay, so that was a pretty intense article because it had a lot of stuff that we as a class don't know. What is something that someone remembers being confused about, if they would like to share? Anything? Okay. Well, we're going to go through it, like it said in the objective, together. Can someone read well, actually, let's first talk about, you can't read it? Thank you for telling me. Is that better? Lovely. Who wrote this? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for answering, but everyone needs to get their pencil and something to either highlight or underline with. If that's still just a pencil, that's fine. But we're going to be doing a lot of note-taking, so I want you to all have the materials ready. Okay, looks good. So who is it written by? Can you raise your hand and tell the whole class, not just me? No?
I'll do it.
Cool. That's,
Oh,
okay.
never mind.
I mispronounced some words. Yes.
Roland Kashina.
Roland Kashina. And where does Roland live?
The Navajo Reservation.
The Navajo Reservation. So, in Arizona, thank you. So do we trust what Roland is saying?
Yes.
Some of it we do. We can trust that he has experienced some of it, for instance. So we're going to underline that, and then at the side, write he himself is Native American. Okay? Now, can someone read the first sentence of the first paragraph for me, please? I will call on people because I do know all of your names now. The first sentence. Just read it for me. Oh, you also have this in front of you. This says, he himself is Native American. Nancy, would you mind reading the first sentence for us? How many non-Indians remember Alcatraz? Thank you. So that is kind of a summary for the whole first paragraph. The whole first paragraph is talking about things that we as an audience don't know about. Is that correct? So he, right here, is naming historically relevant events to his people, but we might not know about them because they aren't considered historically relevant to the rest of the United States. When I write NA, it's an abbreviation for Native Americans. So that's this whole first paragraph. It's a big, long hook, to say in other words. It's basically saying there are things you don't know, and they are important. I won't hold it against you if you haven't heard of or aware of all of this list, because many people are unaware of our situation. This sentence is a summary of his whole point of this first paragraph.
Where does it start?
Many people are unaware of our situation. Some people are even ignorant enough to assume that because some nations have done well for themselves via the new buffaloes, aka casinos and oil rackets. You can't see that? Oh, thank you. Can you just like be my radar for whether I'm out of the picture or not? Thanks, Des. There we go. That all have money oozing out of every pore in their bodies. So this sentence right here. Do we understand what a new buffalo or a casino or oil racket means? We do? I didn't know it when I first read this article. So when we don't understand something, we have to look it up, figure out what it means, and then write about it and annotate our paper so that we know when we read it again. So new buffaloes are a descriptor for casinos and oil rackets. Basically, a lot of Native Americans have used to live off of buffaloes, and now, because there was a time in the 1920s-ish, well, let's say 1890s, so right, that Native Americans lived off of buffaloes, but during the 1890s, all the buffaloes were hunted to extinction. Yep. No more buffaloes. So now, some Native Americans get their livelihood, instead of through hunting, as is historically thought of with Native Americans, they get their livelihood through casinos and oil rackets. Sorry. So we learned something. The truth is that most reservations and Indian communities are as poor as or below the level of third world or global south countries. Is that an important sentence, do you think?
Yes.
Cool. I did just highlight it, so that should have been an easy answer. So this is kind of a topic sentence for the whole essay. He's saying, the truth is. That's an indicator to say, pay attention. This is the truth. So please highlight that part. Abject poverty and utter desperation and isolation, alcohol and drug use are killing more of us than Custer and Sherman. Do we know who Custer and Sherman are? No. Oh, do you want to help us out?
I'm not positive about Sherman, but Custard was Colonel Custard of the 7th Cavalry.
Yeah.
And that's why in South Dakota they have Custard State Park, was because the Indians fought Custard 7th Cavalry and killed Custard.
Very right. So he was a colonel, and the Native Americans fought him. Also, Sherman, he was a soldier and then became another high-ranking person in the military, and he actually pretty much campaigned a war against Indians and thought that they should just not be around anymore. So they are both people who became famous because of their fight with Native Americans. Can everyone write that down, please? Good, thank you. There is little hope for the future when faced with a full force of, this is a big long list, white supremacists, Christian, patriarchal, capital imperialists. basically, he's describing what he views is the truth about the United States federal government. Okay? So we all know what the government is. We all live under it. Do we know what white supremacist is? You better. Ooh, can someone raise their hand and tell me, please? Yes. So that everyone can hear. I believe in you. Okay? Can someone tell me so that the whole class can hear? So we're having a class discussion there. Sonia, did I see your hand? Turn to your partners and talk about white supremacy. Go. Yes.
Shoulder partners.
Talk about what it might
Tell me right now, because I want She gave you a bag. And then she started. How am I the one that memorizes so well? She gave you a bag. She was the Chinese lady. Oh, I hate her. I remember now.
Okay, take 20 more seconds. And after 20 seconds, I'm going to call on a pair. You guys are going to tell me the definition of white supremacy is.
I like it.
Or what you think the definition is.
I remember now. Yeah, and worse
And we're back. Eyes up here. Thank you. Okay. Oh, do you guys want to try it?
No.
Do you have a
no,
volunteer?
I was asking a different question.
Okay, hold the question. We're still focused on white supremacy. Nancy and Judith, can you tell me what white supremacy is, or what you think it is?
Basically, it's a group that doesn't like any other races except for white.
Cool. Who heard what he said and can repeat it for me?
I heard it, but I'm not repeating it.
Go, Haley.
But I'm not going to repeat it.
Why?
Because I don't like it.
Go for it. Ethan, did you hear what Jaden said?
Yes.
Cool. Can you repeat it for the class?
People who really like their race, no one else's.
Cool. So they really like their race and no one else's. We can see that from the word supremacy.
Pro-life.
What kind of people are they?
Pro-life.
They're white. So, okay. Can you see it now?
No.
Oh, you can't.